Welcome to the Intellectual Freedom Podcast, where we dare to discuss what shall not be discussed, and offer our listeners a chance to hear the female and male perspective and to think for themselves. In today's news, we will be discussing the mating habits of the modern world. So it appears that two famous podcasters have gotten themselves in a sticky situation regarding their dating habits this past couple weeks. The first one is from the podcast Fresh and Fit. And Fresh, also known as Walter, has been known to talk about women in a very colorful way, mostly calling them out for promiscuity and making bad choices, also not taking responsibility for those choices. However, this week it dropped that he has been sleeping with one of those women and having unprotected sex with her, and now she appears to possibly be pregnant. And I do say possibly because obviously we don't know if the lady is really pregnant, but she is at least claiming to be pregnant. And this raises some big questions. One, why doesn't he practice what he preaches about being careful and cautious around women that he states, or at least his podcast states, are out to recommend? And two, is there any way in which casual sex can be safe? The other person we're discussing is Dr. Huberman. He has been accused by an ex-girlfriend of having multiple relationships at the same time without their knowledge that he was not being monogamous, therefore possibly leading them to have unprotected sex with him as well. This situation, the question is, if it's true and he did lead them to believe they were in a monogamous relationship, what does that have to do with his podcast versus his character? And it also begs the question, if you are a person in a modern dating situation and someone says they're in a monogamous relationship with you, should you still have unprotected sex with them? Or should there be promiscuity at any range? Outside of marriage, should there be sex at any range? How does one navigate the modern dating life? So let's start with Fresh. What are your thoughts?
One can see this as a man versus woman, sexual dynamics. People will usually take the side of their own sex and feel that they owe some allegiance to that. Others that think more clearly and see us all on this ship together as one human race can see that this is, in the end, a result of society crumbling. And I can put a lot of blame on a lot of things for that. But in the end, the only reason we're hearing about this, or anyone cares, is because of the status of these two men in popularity, financial, and celebrity status. We look to those that have a lot, that have done well, that are known. And as humans, we only promote people to that rank if they have in some way earned it. And usually, throughout history, that has been in some kind of merit as far as honor. We look to the people who have a lot more, and we like to believe that they have earned it, and that makes the world just, and that if I also work hard, and I also contribute, and I also push myself to be more, that someday I may be honored in the same way these men have been. Period.
That's some interesting points there. That brings me to attorney James Sexton, who appeared on the Fresh and Fit podcast last night and is apparently representing Fresh. And he did state that you know you've really made it as a man when you have a paternity suit come out against you. He did use more colorful language, but that was the gist of it. Again, though, is it smart for people to have promiscuity. And by promiscuity, I am saying sex outside of a committed relationship at minimum, if not sex outside of marriage.
We have made marriage a joke and a laughing stock. We have made it to mean next to nothing. And so people bypass and disregard it. The belief that you can go and have all the sex you want and be able to escape any responsibility is dumb, for lack of a better word, foolhardy. But I think both sexes try to make the other partner pay the toll. Men have wanted to have free love and all the sex they want without repercussions. And of course, now the repercussion is that 40 or 50% of men can't find anyone. Women are all looking for these top guys. The top guys have even paid because they, in the end, will more than likely be alone, unable to ever trust a woman to be with them genuinely for who they are, giving up and sacrificing love in their life for carnal pleasure. Women have given up the man that could have stayed with them or could have tried to help them and develop a family for the dream of the guy that has it all. Both sides have fooled each other and fooled themselves into a dismal reality that we live in now.
I would say while it's understandable that men have a much higher sex drive than women based on the copious amounts of testosterone they have, that any man who thinks that he's going to be able to go into the candy store and have all the different types of candy he wants without paying a price is being ignorant. As a man, you have to ask yourself, why is this woman wanting to have sex with me? What is it I have that she wants? Sometimes it may be that she wants a relationship with you. But what happens when you don't care for that relationship? Or she finds out you are also seeing other women. The statement, hell has no fury like a woman's scorn, is very true. I think this is what we're seeing definitely in the Dr. Huberman case. This main woman feels scorn, and now she is trying to smear his reputation for it. Now, in case of Fresh, this Instagram model from another country who he had a relationship with for at least a couple months, it seems like, and he knowingly had unprotected sex with her and ejaculated inside of her, is possibly pregnant with his child and is wanting child support. Now, I'm going to say he needs to take responsibility for his actions. And even though this person may have set him up, unless he's a complete moron, he should know that he was having unprotected sex with this woman, ejaculating inside of her, and that she could get pregnant and that he could be responsible for paying child support. Now, there will be some that come out and say, oh, well, yeah, he should use the condom. And it's like, okay, yeah, he should have for many reasons, just STDs alone. However, condoms are not 100% effective. And sometimes they do break. And there is a clip on his show where he does talk about condoms breaking. So even if a man is using a condom, is he fully safe from getting a woman pregnant and having to pay child support?
I would say that men of their status who want to avoid pregnancy need to get a vasectomy. It's interesting that our biology, our reptilian brain, and our bodies are fighting tooth and nail to try to keep the world going, in spite of how dismal our world is. He may have gone into the relationship believing that he just wanted sex. And she may have led him on and let him believe that that's all she also wanted, sex with a random guy. But of course, he was not random. She did not just choose him randomly. He's well known, and she also knows that he is making a lot of money with his podcast. Her hypergamy wants the very best for her offspring. And we can say that she may want money for herself, which is maybe true. But underneath all of this, we still have the human species trying to continue. And it's interesting that he, in this recording, says it's not killing the baby, and they start to argue about what abortion actually is. I wonder how many people think like that, and then their reptilian brain doesn't recognize what abortion is or what it isn't. It's so easy to take a pill. He actually says, it's just take a pill and forget about it. She obviously wants to keep the child and have it. We can say that she wants that for the wrong reason or the right reason, and we can say that he slept with her for the wrong reason or the right reason. But in the end, the reason biologically was to create another life. And I'm assuming that's what's going to happen. We can tie all of the reasons for blame to everybody and everything. But like he says in Jurassic Park, nature will find a way.
Yes, I think that both of them are at fault. I'm not going to say that this woman is a complete victim. I think, again, unless she is a complete moron, she understands that having unprotected sex with a man and letting him ejaculate inside you is probably going to cause pregnancy. Both of them decide to play Russian roulette with their fertility. And now, if she is being honest, there is a child on the way. Him pressuring her in the clips, and if you guys are unfamiliar with the clips, you can Google Fresh and Fit or Fresh Got a Girl Pregnant, and there are audio clips and text messages between the two of them discussing this. And he is pressuring her to end the pregnancy, and she is saying she doesn't want to kill the baby. That's her words. And whether she doesn't want to end the pregnancy because she's looking for financial security, or if she doesn't believe in abortion, either way, does he have the right to pressure her into ending the pregnancy? I'm surprised that the liberals aren't coming out against this, because it's supposed to be, according to the liberal side, her body, her choice. So why does he have a right to pressure her into ending the pregnancy?
Right, and then they will argue also that, well, if she can say that she wants to keep it and he says he doesn't want it, then he should be out of child support. But of course, that's not reality. And the government has made sure that men will pay their fair share, if we want to put that out there, in child support, regardless of if they want to or not. This ensures that women can make poor choices as far as mating and still be supported by the government forcing the man to contribute. Children are expensive, and typically, when we're not talking about celebrities, these people that are told they must pay child support make so little money that it's a minuscule amount anyway, and the government is going to have to pick up a lot of the tab for her poor choice in a mate, which then, of course, goes back to the taxpayer.
I hear what you're saying there, and if you look at it from the male perspective, that makes sense. However, if the government didn't make the man pay, then you're saying that he gets out of his poor choices.
The man should never have been able to have sex with her. She should look at the situation the way her female ancestors did, and looked at him carefully and thought, no, not that one. I wonder if this woman with this man would have picked him and said, yes, I want you to be the father of my child, even though I've heard all of your rhetoric about women and how they are promiscuous and whatnot. I'm assuming that she has heard his podcast.
I believe she actually has been on his podcast. So she is aware of who she got involved with. And he is aware of who he got involved with. So they're both acting in a way that is incongruent to their best interest.
Women have always held the keys to sex, and the door has been shut unless you could provide for her and the child. It was absolutely necessary in the natural world that she can relax, have the child, nurture the child, while he does everything needed, because she was pregnant, helpless, needing resources. And so this genetic profile has carried on to all female, whether they embrace it, understand why they feel it, ignore it, pretend it doesn't exist. I think that ends up on the individual basis and the individual person. Some people have a lot stronger instincts than others. But as society has been more and more comfortable and pleasant without any major conflicts, and the largest thing we have to worry about is who is going to be president, or if the groceries cost a little more, the average person doesn't feel a sense of fear and need. These natural things that have driven society and driven people. Men need to feel like they are needed. Women need to feel like they are cared for and loved and protected. Women automatically feel like that, and so they don't choose wisely. Or perhaps she chose very wisely, looking through the possible men that she could be with and picking the one with the most money.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say that she did choose somebody who can provide for her so that she could sit back and relax and just have the baby. Additionally, though, I believe she is not an American citizen, and that might be part of the issue there as well, that the country she comes from is not as comfortable as America, and that she may be also looking to migrate here. There was some comments made by Fit, also known as Myron, on the podcast, that this young woman was unhappy that Fresh would not get her an apartment in Miami, and that's why this came about. So it does sound like she's actually tying into her hypergamy here. In a different time, she may have chosen a different man who was willing to commit to her and her only. Apparently, she was okay with having a open on his end, closed on her end relationship with him, according to stuff discussed on the Fresh and Fit podcast. And so she may have chosen somebody who was willing to at least marry her to secure those resources. However, because of promiscuity, which this Fresh and Fit podcast is known for promoting, some women have chosen to go to this route where they offer sex for resources, and they make sure they get those resources either through manipulation or through pregnancy. And this goes into the stories of professional athletes having allegations charged against them or having paternity suits. Apparently, there was one story in the news where the woman took the condom out of the trash can and inserted the semen inside of her to get pregnant. So I'm just saying that if you're a man and you're looking at this behavior, and it's not, again, it's not all women, it's not all men, but if you're looking at this behavior, you would have to be a fool to want to live this promiscuous lifestyle, because it opens you up to having to pay for a child that you say you don't want. In the case of Fresh, it opens you up to be having your child raised by somebody you don't want them raised by, being tied to somebody you don't want to be tied to. It opens you up to charges of SA. It opens you up to having your name smeared in the public eye. It's just the Faustian bargain for men. There is no such thing as free love, free sex. It doesn't exist. You are going to pay in some way.
My final thought on this is, imagine he had taken the high road on that conversation that had been recorded. If he had been a man who justly deserves his amount of money and resources coming in because of what he contributes to society, because of the honors that he has done, the courageous things that people had to have done in the past. Well, if he had been that man, he would have said, I understand. I'm here for you. I'm here for the baby. I'm a man, and this is my child. No one would be hearing these audio tapes. Nothing would have changed all that much for him in the amount of money he makes. He still would have had far, far, far more than 90% of Americans. He would have been able to continue on his lifestyle and or possibly find something even better like love and try to have something real with another human being. But it's him trying to remove himself from any and all responsibility. It's the classic case of someone trying to weasel out of paying a small amount and ends up paying so much more.
So my final thought here is that if you're driving in your car and you don't have an agenda to get in a car wreck, but you do get in a car wreck, you are still responsible for your actions. So even though we can look at the situation and think, wow, he's a moron, he should have known that unprotected sex and ejaculating a woman would lead to pregnancy. Even though he claims he did not intend to get her pregnant, he's still responsible if she is indeed pregnant and if indeed the baby is his. And I know that that's another one of the things they talk about on their podcast, that women do say they're pregnant with your child when it's not your child. And a simple genetic test would prove that if he was child. So given that he admittedly had unprotected sex with her, and given that if this is his child, then he needs to man up and take responsibility for his actions. The irony that a podcast that talks about women not taking responsibility for their actions, having no accountability, is now trying to get this man to weasel out of his accountability for his actions is comical. But it just goes to show you that in this war between men and women, there is no side that's actually right. When you have a zero-sum game, everybody loses. Let us know what you think in the comments.